Hello, Felix. How are you today?
Fine.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about, give us your name and where you're from, and
Okay. My name is Felix Pasteris, and I live at Joliet, Illinois. I was born there.
Really?
The only time I left it is 5 years in the service, from 40 to 45.
And what branch of the service were you in?
I was in the Air Force. I joined the Air Force.
No kidding. Which organization were you part of?
I was part of the first fighter group, the 27th Squadron, which was the first squadron ever made in the U.S.
How about
from
that?
the First World War.
Wow. So I bet you have some pretty interesting stories to tell us.
Oh, yes, my life. A huge part of my life.
Well, where would you like to start?
Well, I'd like to start at the beginning.
That's probably a good place to start.
And the beginning was, I got out of high school in 1940, and we had talked to the recruiters, and they said that we wouldn't be able to get until July 1st, so it turned out perfectly. So 3 weeks later, after I graduated from high school, I went into service in Chicago, and then they asked if we wanted to go to Rantoul or Texas. And I said, I've never been out of state of, I was in Joliet all my life, so I was never out of Joliet. And the reason at that time, it was a very big depression, and everybody was down, and that's one of the reasons I joined. There were 5 boys in our family, and my father hadn't worked for 5 years. There was no work. Well, he worked part-time or did anything he could do to exist. So it was, and my mother wouldn't sign, so I could go in. So I had to sign her name. That wasn't unusual. Your father wants to get rid of you, you don't one mouth to feed.
Mom doesn't want you to leave.
So we ended up in Texas, San Antonio.
All right. So that was your first, your basic training?
Right. And went through the training, and I flunked out because of my stomach. And I couldn't stand airplanes. My first ride in an airplane, I went up, I think it was a P-36. And he went around, did the maneuvers, and pretty soon I told him, I hit the stick, and I says, shh. He started laughing at it and did some more, and about that time, it was right after breakfast, too.
Oh, my.
Here he does a roll. You guess what happened in the roll?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I didn't clean it up either. That's how sick I was. Well, there was a good story about that before. The week before, 3 of us flipped for the chute. Whoever won the chute could go up to the airplane ride. Well, it was a sad day because it never came back. So I was kind of lucky, I thought. And then next week, nobody wanted to go up, so I decided I should go up. And I had a nice ride, except for the stomach. Well, we stayed there and got our basic training, and then we were assigned to San Angeles, West Texas, which is out in the middle of nowhere, and being from the city, and nowhere is that isn't right. So we decided, we heard that in Selfridge Field, where the first fighter group was, we decided the 17th had gone to the Philippines, and it needed people. So about 15 of us put in for a transfer to the Selfridge Field, and 3 weeks later, here's your passport to go to Selfridge. And he said, how do we get there? He says, don't ask me. So we decided to hitchhike, and it was in December. And I never got to Selfridge for 3 weeks, so I stayed home a week. And when I got to Selfridge, it was cold and windy and snowy, and I caught a bad cold, and I stayed in bed for about 3 days until the first sergeant came around. And he says, what's your name? And I told him my name. He said, I've been looking for you. And I told him I was sick. And he says, get to the infirmary and I'll talk to you later. And that's how I was introduced to the 27. And it was nice duty here at the 27 because we had a baseball team. It was 1941 then. And
what month in 1941?
It started in December, the end of December, and then it went through to, I think, June or July, something like that. And in the meantime, I got a P-38. Oh, we took tests, to qualify to become a crew chief, for,
Mhm.
and so took tests, and I had a pretty good score on it, and
So you became a P-38 crew chief.
crew chief. And I had 4 men under me all the time, and you know, at that time we had, well, nobody knew anything about a P-38. It was new to everybody, and it was quite an experience having an airplane like that and to take care of. And the responsibility, you don't think it's very much, but it's a lot. So what we did, I was practical, because if I could see something, I could fix it. I figured I could fix it anyway.
Mm.
And when somebody came to me in the crew would say, "Hey, how do we do this and do that?" And I didn't know either. I'd either ask the rep, the factory rep, or we figure it out ourselves. If it was a little thing, we had to figure it out, because you can't go to somebody all the time. And it's a funny thing, he could ask the question, he'd be solving it.
Mm.
And, you know, because I didn't know either. But, you know, you have to look at something and figure it out. That's all it amounted to. Be practical.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we got along pretty well.
So you went through the P-38 training to be as a crew chief in Selfridge. Is that where
Right.
that happened? Okay.
Right.
And then how long were you in Selfridge?
Well, we were there until we went on maneuvers.
Mm.
We went to Texas for maneuvers in a rice field. So, and one day we woke up in the rice field and the water was about this far from the bottom of our cot.
Oh no.
Oh, I put my foot over the side of the bed and it was right in water.
Oh no.
So it's just trained for the islands, you know,
Mhm.
and it was...
That's right, because you were planning on going to the Philippines.
Sure.
Right.
So we stayed there, and they played war games against the Navy and everybody. We were the white squadron, and it's a white cross on it, and the other ones were the Red Cross. So we fought each other, and it was all simulated. So we stayed there until we got sort of, I think 3 weeks, something like that. And then we went to Lake Pontchartrain in New Orleans, and we stayed there and recuperated
Mm.
until the South Carolina maneuvers were on. And then the South Carolina maneuvers were on, so we stayed there for another 3 weeks or so, and had the same type of maneuvers, you know. It was sort of fun, you know, but you see all the country, and then you had all this experience, you know. It was not bad. But you know, you'd hear Ohio over the, you know, the draftees were on at that time.
Uh-huh.
They say over the hill in October. That's how they'd greet you, you know, over the hill in Ohio.
So after the maneuvers, did you go back to Selfridge, or then?
Yeah, we went back to Selfridge, and we hadn't even unpacked completely, and here the war broke out. On a Sunday afternoon, we were laying in the sack there, and everyone was asking, "Where is this place?" You know, and in Hawaii, and nobody seemed to know exactly what it was. And I decided, I don't.
How did you tell me how you got notified? What was it like about Pearl Harbor?
On the radio.
It was on the radio.
Yeah, we just heard it on the radio about 1:30 in the afternoon, and it was really a surprise to us.
So you guys were just hanging out on a lazy Sunday afternoon
Yeah, well,
in
you know,
December.
nothing to do, ready to go to town.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we had free transportation, we had amusement parks or any place like that was free, and the hockey games were free and stuff like that. Even the baseball games were free.
Mm-hmm.
All you had to do was put your uniform on, and that was it.
But then you heard the announcement, the breaking news on the radio.
Well, so I got the brilliant idea. I mean, we're going to get restricted to base, you know. I figured that, and I dressed up my uniform, went to town. And this in the afternoon, and I went to the hockey game, and in the hockey game, they kept on announcing all personnel go back to the base, you know.
Mm.
So I stayed there a while, and finally a couple guys come around. I was way up and hidden up there, so I wanted to watch the hockey game. So I got back, they didn't even miss me. They're working, you know, getting everything together. So, and then some of they decided that they wanted to either fly or we were going to go to California. And I said, I don't want to fly. They had civilian planes come in and pick people that wanted to fly to go to San Diego. But we took a troop train. The troop train was the fun of the day. It took us 7 days to get 7 days to get to San Diego. When we get to San Diego, there's nobody there. Nobody there, but there was one submarine. There was something wrong with it, so we went aboard it and looked at it and all that, you know. But then we patrolled the West Coast. But at the day before Christmas, I have an attack, appendix attack. I've had them before, and I knew what it was, so I went to the infirmary, and they said, get them in an ambulance and take them up to the Marine base, which is just north of San Diego.
Is that Camp Pendleton?
Pendleton, yes. And I get there, and they said, we don't have anybody. Take them back. So I was back to the... And that afternoon, they decided to get a civilian, and I forget the name of the town. It's right next to Coronado. That's what it was. So they put me in the hospital and operated that night. Christmas Eve. And I was there for 7 whole weeks. No, 3 whole weeks, 21 days.
Wow.
And I don't know if it was, I didn't know if that was common or anything, but I enjoyed the hospital. So then I got out of the hospital, and I get back to the base, and nobody's there. So I hitchhiked up to Pendleton, and somebody said they were probably up in L.A. So I hitchhiked up L.A. and I get back there, and they welcomed me back, and I found the outfit. And we were at LAX, that's where we were stationed. And we were in huts that the Mexicans, there were the fields there, and the Mexicans used to live in them. It was pretty good. It was on Sepulveda and 101, so it was right in the corner there. And LAX was a good, because we were welcomed. One night, a balloon came over, and the sky was red with tracers. You know, they kept on pumping it, and we're out there like nuts. You know, we didn't even have a helmet on or anything. And then the hail of bullets were, you know, the shrapnel was coming down. So we got inside the Quonset huts, and oh gee, it was something. It was, you know, it was a learning experience all the time. Nobody told you what to do. You had to use your common sense.
So how long did you stay in the LAX area?
Well, it's probably about 6 months, because we broke up, and the 82nd took half of our crew.
Oh.
The 82nd Fighter Group. Then a lot of celebrities came there, you know.
Who did you see?
Oh, yeah. Well, the one thing that I got to tell you about, somebody came back and said, there's a good singer at the Palladium. So I said, okay, we'll go over there. And it was free, because and it's a dance, and I didn't dance, so I went there and sat on the stage, you know, right at the edge of the stage, and I looking up like this, and I said, who is he? And they said, Frank Sinatra. And I was looking at his mouth, and all I could see is fillings. I'm right below him, you know, and the Modernaires. It was Tommy Dorsey and the Modernaires and all that, you know. We had entertainment like that, and so, and then they decided that we had to go east. So we went all the way to Maine on a train. The incidents there, I don't know what happened on that train at all, you know, but it just, I know we stopped in Chicago, and that's all I know. You know, memory, you know how the memory skips things, and that's what happened there. And Bangor, Maine was all mechanics. We had to remodel the airplanes and put belly tanks on it, and the pilots had to cruise to conserve gas. You know, they had to practice everything. And we had factory reps there with us too, so it wasn't too bad. And one night we go to town and come back, and then says we had to get back to base. So figure something happened. We get back to base, and they said, put your airplanes back together. Here we are working all night long, get them all back together. And they said, we're going back to the West Coast. Nobody knew why. And I heard somebody got back as far as Arizona, and I got back. I think as far as I think it was Kentucky. It wasn't very far. So and then they said, return to base. and it found out that the Japanese fleet was coming towards the coast, west coast, and they had turned north to the Aleutians.
Oh.
So we were back there to protect the west coast, so and go back to the LAX fleet. So that's what happened. So, and then we find out we're going to England. And they said they have to do all this stuff and get the airplanes all ready. And we flew then to Labrador. And Labrador was just a field there. There was nothing there.
Is that right?
And I know I took a hot bath, and and they hit me with the sticks and all that. It was just an adventure,
Sure.
So then they said, you're going to Greenland first. So we get into Greenland. And Greenland was a uphill climb. That was the landing thing. You started at the water edge, and on this side the glacier was falling into the water. And then one day we get the idea that here's a glacier about 7 foot at the end of the runway. We figured we were going to knock that down. So one guy had a Thompson machine gun. I had the Thompson, and the other guys had rifles. So there's 5 of us. So we're going to chop that thing off, So we got the time of our life right there. So we emptied our. I had a 20 clip. I emptied that, put another one in, emptied that. Nothing happened. All we could see is chipping off ice. That's all. Nothing else. Then we find out it's about 50 feet down below that anyway, or 100 feet. They didn't know, but. And the other things there, it got pretty bad. The gnats. There's like 1,000 over your head all the time. And then they get in your eyes, your nose, and your ears and stuff like that. And then they finally got these nets to put over your head so we could work on the airplane. And then we find out that 4 airplanes had to land on the ice cap.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't too far from where we were. What happens is a fjord, and it closes in, and you can't find your light.
Was that the lost flight?
There's a lost flight. It was a B-17, which was the lead plane, and 4 P-38s. And the first guy went in, he had his wheels down. He figured he was going to land on the ice cap, and he flipped right over. And it's a good thing the snow was on top of the ice cap, because he went down into it, and they were able to dig him out. So it was a soft landing for him. And the rest of them came in with their wheels up, so they belly landed.
So how long did you stay in Greenland?
Not very long, a couple of weeks, something like that. It was really nothing to do, just.
And you continued the trip to England?
Yeah, the trip. Well, here's the first thing they tell us. We get in the airplane, said we got to fly about 15 feet over the water on the way to Iceland, and they said we have to encounter U-boats, German U-boats, and it kind of scares you a little. Here I got a Thompson machine gun with no bullets in it. In the airplane, there's a window of a rubber thing about that big, and you can pull it out and you can shoot out of it. So, but nothing ever happened. We landed in Reykjavik. No, we landed in Keflavik, which is just outside of Reykjavik. So, and we there about maybe 2.5, 3 months.
Okay.
And we were servicing airplanes that were coming through behind us. We serviced them.
Okay.
And then in the summertime, it's a nice, it's no nighttime. So we out there playing in the morning, playing volleyball, and And the only other incident we had there, this German 4-engine plane was come over he was come over just about every day with the photograph of what we were doing, So one day they decided they're going to shoot that thing down. So they went up and shot it down. So that was the first airplane in the European theater was shot down by American crew.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, so then on from there we went to, I went into town and I asked a recent visitor there, did the field stink? And oh yeah. They used that for fertilizer, and old fish for fertilizer, and it was really bad, so it's still there, The only interesting thing there was they heated the house with the heated water from the volcanoes. They'd pump the water and then come into the main, and you'd open that valve up and come circulate in your house. So
Isn't that creative?
yeah, it's creative. And at that time, the Murmansk one was going to, the boats were going to northern Russia, and the Germans would shoot them up, you know, and they lost 7 that run. And there was some in the harbor that were shot up, and they just, and we went down to see them, and that's about all that happened there. It was interesting. Then we flew into, from there we flew into Scotland. In Scotland we went down to Hierco, which was near Bath, England, and we stayed there. And that was a pretty nice duty, but the food was bad. The food was mutton, which is strong and smelling, and mutton gravy on the potatoes and Brussels sprouts. That's what you had. But we couldn't. You couldn't smell it. Otherwise, you couldn't eat it. And we'd go into town and buy some eggs, and that's it. That was the only, we existed on eggs. And we had we got our airplanes all ready, and we flew into France a few times on missions, and they didn't do very much. They were just a little training missions, and that was it. And then they were waiting for the invasion of North Africa. In North Africa, we flew right into Arzew, which is near Oran, in Algeria. And that part was about 3 weeks before the time, everybody had to get on a boat to go there, and we flew in. The crew chief.
Crew chiefs got to fly.
Yeah, got to fly, and C-47s, and we loaded those things until you couldn't put anything else in them. And they picked a night that there was lightning and thunder and really bad night. The plane was all over the sky because they had to fly it over Normandy, shortcut, you know, go over France. It was occupied at the time. But I had my bed between 2 tanks. They're like the oil tanks now, and then the gasoline was in there. And I put my bed in there, and I was sleeping, and then I had to get up to go. That was the worst thing that ever happened to me because my stomach started acting up. So I go back to the bucket. In the back, it was just a bucket sticker, and here Olson had his head in it, and I shoved him over, and as soon as I smelled it, that was the end. So I had to go, and then we just laid there, and here comes the crew chief, and he says, "Get up front, we're starting to mush." And the airplane's starting to go down because all the weight's in the back. And that made the difference. 2 little guys, you know. So 4 guys come back and drag us up front, and we laid there. And then we landed in Gibraltar. And all I could eat is grapes. My stuff. And then we waited in Gibraltar till I had a clearance to get into North Africa. Then.
How long did it take you to get in there?
Well, only a few days. It wasn't very long. But
Is that right?
Yeah, Gibraltar was nice. You know, it was on the Spanish side there. You know, and the British had all their. They were in control of that area.
Oh, okay.
Gibraltar area.
So then, once you got past Gibraltar, you got into Algiers.
Algiers.
And was that your
the other
final-
guys had gone. They were like infantrymen. They got off the boat, and they had the little boat to go in, and they had all kinds of problems, and they got shot at. And we got in there about 3 days later, you know, and they were at the airfield at the time. And the first thing they asked, give us some sea rations. They hadn't eaten for 3 days.
Wow.
They didn't have any food.
And did you take care of them?
Oh, we'll give it to, you know, sea rations.
Yeah. Get rid of that.
Get rid of that. You know.
So so then you got all set up there at your new base?
Well, the first night, the French weren't giving up. It was a French naval base, and they were shooting the 75s at us. You know, not at us at the airfield, and they're trying to knock off the airplanes in the airfield.
I have a question.
So, big French, you know what a foxhole is? Well, we learned in a hurry.
So, did you have to go build the airstrip with the planks and everything, or was there
No,
already
no,
air
no,
strip
there was
there?
no planks or anything like it. It was just a strip, that's all, you know. It was dry, you know, at the time.
So it was already there when you got there?
Yes, it was a French air base.
So
Yeah.
we've got about a half an hour left,
Okay.
and I'd like to know, tell us about what it was like, because then you were the crew chiefs that got in early, now you had to receive the airplanes, right?
Yes.
So what was that like?
Well, really nothing. It was easy.
The French quit shooting?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And then they went and we raided the barracks, their barracks, and everybody was taking like silver stuff and stuff like that. And I saw a mattress. It was a mattress about that wide and about 5 foot. Man, I took that thing the first. You know, you can't sleep on that ground. It's so hard, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I said that's going to be it. And guess what? The next place we go to, it was raining.
Oh, no.
And yeah, and it was bad. You know, it rained and rained and rained, and I had that mattress cover. Everybody wanted that. Not with mattress cover, mattresses. Wasn't very thick. It was only about 2 inches, you know, but it was big. You know, it was round about that big, and jeez, that was a godsend for me. So the next place we go, we got rained in, and all we could do there is drink wine.
Mm.
There was a winery right there, you know, and all our 5-gallon cans were full of wine. You know. Oh, that was terrible, you know. You know, at home, my father had wine on the table all the time, but I never drank. I drank it occasionally, you know, but hardly any. And one time, it was in the afternoon, and we got it gathered around and started bulling, and we had this 5-gallon bucket there, and we kept on drinking and drinking. And I went to stand up, I couldn't stand up.
Mm.
I didn't realize it. It was, you know, 2 or 3 hours of that. And I get in the chow line, and the mud's about 6 inches. And I get there, and I get in there and get my food, and I start for the table. The table were all on horses, you know, and just a plank out there.
Mhm.
And I slipped or something. I was drunk, actually. I know I was drunk. And I hit that table, and them guys' meal all went into the mud.
Mm.
And one guy was going to pop me, and somebody said, all I could remember, somebody said, he's a sergeant, don't hit him. That's all I knew.
That was good enough, and he didn't hit
That
you,
was
right?
good enough, yeah.
So, so you got all settled in. You got over your hangover, I guess.
Oh, yes.
So then, kind of walk us through what it was like to be in the combat area there for your time.
Well, there, you know, we shot down Captain Owens shot down the first airplane. Give me a cigarette, he says. Give me a cigarette. Give me a cigarette. And then he comes out, he was 100 miles high, you know.
Uh-huh.
He couldn't calm him down, so we got him a cigarette and started talking to him.
That was Joel Rumhead Owens,
Joe,
wasn't it?
yes, Joe. That was him.
So that was Rumhead's first kill,
First kill.
and you were there to celebrate it with him.
Yeah, yeah. And so the next day he comes in and he buzzes us about 15 feet right over the runway. He was always fooling around anyway. And he said, how was that? And he says, were you on oxygen? He never said a word to me, you know. So okay. The next day, or it was 2 or 3 days later, and here comes an airplane right at me. Boy, I mean, he was about 5 foot over the ground there, and it come right at me. I couldn't believe it. And I run sideways, and I got on the path of the airplane, and all my foot moves right. I had a couple belly tanks, and I had the tools and everything, but you know, that stuff was gone.
Mm.
He never said a word.
Kept it to himself.
He got back at me.
Yeah. So take that.
Yeah, take that. But we did, then, from there, we went to Biskra. Biskra was out in the middle of the desert. It's the Sahara Desert. It's on the other side of the Atlas Mountains.
Mm.
And we're in that oasis. And that was interesting. That was the most interesting part of Africa, I think. Because there it was dry, and the Germans every night would come over and strafe us and bomb us. You know, they only dropped 300-pound bomb, but digging a foxhole was very easy because, you know, and foxholes, you would not believe how nice they were. They'd line them with wood. They'd go in sideways, because every night you hit this guy. See, we couldn't take off because we wouldn't be able to land. It'd be dark.
Oh.
And they had a landing strip, you know, further on. We didn't have anything lit up, so one night we decided we're going to get them, you know, and we set up. We took the machine guns, the 50 calibers, off the B-24s, No, it would be 17. The 301st bomb group was with us. Was on the same base at that time.
Uh-huh.
And we were going to shoot them down, you know. And got orders before they came, about before dusk. No shooting tonight. We couldn't figure it out. You know, we had a whole day to set it all up, and they said no shooting. And guess what happened? The next oasis probably was a couple, 3 or 4 miles down the road, got bombed that night.
Is that right?
But we don't know, nobody knows what happened.
Mm.
So, and then one night they said evacuate the area. We were getting bombed pretty bad. And they said evacuate the area. So here's 1,000 guys running across the desert. And I fall down, my helmet goes flying, and I'm there laughing like hell because I thought I was in the movies, you know. You know, that's the way the movies are. And the guys come over and join me, and we just sat there and laughed after I told them the story, you know.
Isn't that something?
And then one night we did think we got him. We were all in the holes, you know, in our foxholes, and here he comes right over there, very low, you know. He kept on shooting. And we thought he went into the mountain, but we never saw no flashers or anything. But he went down. We know he went down. That's all we know.
Wow. So tell us what it was like, kind of on a day-to-day. What was your day like?
Well, the day first you filled the airplane with gasoline with 5-gallon tank cans. And the cans were probably half empty, or very seldom you found a full can because they'd leak, and you know. And they're very thin. They were very thin. The walls on the containers. So and we'd have to fill the airplanes with that. And, the only other, well, there was one guy killed, and a lot of guys had their eardrums.
How did the guy get killed?
The bomb. I think
because you were getting attacked every night.
Yeah, well, just about every night. You know, it was often, you know, because that was our landing. That was our base. You know.
Right.
And
so did the pilots fly any kind of defensive area around the base, or were they just not there?
They were in the foxholes with us.
Oh, okay.
Because you know the airplanes had to sit out there, and they're easy targets for the Germans.
Right.
And then we had a hard time putting up a lot of airplanes. Sometimes we only put up 6 airplanes, maybe 4 or 5 bombers. You know, it was early in the war for us. You know, so. And we lost. We were against the Yellow-Nose, you know, the 109s. No, with the 190s, and they were good. So, and then the guy from Joliet, I met him. I didn't know he was from Joliet, so he was in the 94th. Captain, can't think of his name. Well, anyway. I met him in Chow. He had come to our outfit to eat breakfast there, and somebody says, there's the captain there from Joliet. So I went on and talked to him. He said, well, we'll get together, you know, just move. And I said, okay. And because we were scattered around the airfield, you know, and 94th was probably a mile or so away from us. And guess what? A couple of days later, he gets shot down. He was on a strafing mission, got shot down, and they think it was friendly fire because nobody knew what a 38 was at that time. So,
did he get out?
No, he said, "I'm going in," and that's the last one. And he wasn't supposed to be on the mission either. So, and the guy told me that that took his place. Told me that. He said I was supposed to go, and he didn't. He volunteered to take my place. I guess he was pretty good from what everybody told me. So it's one of those things that happened, and it was kind of sad.
Sure.
And
so you were there for, how long were you there at that particular location?
We were there about, well, that was nice duty there, other than that, you know, at night there, because it was dry and everything. Oh, we lived on dates and hardtack.
Really? That was your diet?
That was our diet. The hardtack was an English cookie, and they were supposed to have vitamins and stuff like that. And the dates were wormy. Well, at night though, when you ate them, you were eating protein then.
So you didn't.
So
you couldn't see the worms, so it didn't matter, right?
It didn't matter. And everybody says, "Here goes the protein." It was a common thing. Well, a funny thing. this guy from California gets dromedary dates, a package about that in the package he got. He nailed it to the bulletin board.
He didn't want them.
Yeah, we lost quite a few pilots in Brisker there. And then finally we got out of it, and our transportation was in 48, you know, the World War I boxcars.
Mm-hmm.
We got piled in there, and we went along all the way to Constantine. And it was quite a ride, because the other thing I have to tell you about there was nothing between the Germans and us, but at night the French Foreign Legion would surround us, about 50 guys on horses.
Really?
Yeah, they were surrounded every night. They'd be around, and they'd be on horses, and then they would go to town. If they found anybody, they'd shoot them in the middle of the day. Shoot them.
So they were kind of your partners.
They were our partners, yes. And they were with us on the train to go to Chateau Dun. That's what was the name of the town. And Chateau Dun was it was nice. It was on the other side of the Atlas, and there was farmland and a big airfield the Germans used. It wasn't bad at all. And there was a lot of aces made in our outfit, because the German transport would transport these soldiers in like C-47s, you know, and they found out about it, and they went out. They had a shooting gallery. One guy was an ace in one mission.
No
Shot down
kidding.
5 airplanes in one mission.
Do you remember who that was?
I think it was Darrell Welch.
Was it?
I think it was Darrell. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was him. My pilot was McKay, and he shot down 3 in one day.
Wow.
So he was an ace too, but he shot 2 other ones. So
And what was his first name? Do you remember?
John McKay.
John McKay.
Never knew whatever happened to him. So I have a picture of the airplane in him. So, but I did get that much of him. From there we went to Matur, and Matur was right outside of. The names get mixed up. Well, no, this is terrible. I can't think of the name. It was right on the coast, and it was a naval base, and that's where they'd hop from Africa to Sicily.
Mm.
And one night, it was full of scorpions.
Oh no.
And the ground was cracked like 1 and 2 inches. So at night we'd see them run. They'd run down between the cracks, and we had gasoline. We'd pour the gasoline and light it. I mean, they were all over the place. One night you'd get 50 or 60 of them, you know.
Holy cow.
Well, I mean, a lot of them. Well, it was terrible. And you had to turn your tent. We had to keep it zipped up and everything. We always worried putting on our shoes, you know.
So how long did the war last for you?
Well, I stayed in till the very end.
Mm.
The very, very end.
What was it like when it ended?
It was funny. Here, you know, every day you're up, warming up the airplanes, they're taken care of. No flying today. No more flying. You're going home. And that was it. And we sat around for about 2 or 3 weeks. Nothing to do. Nothing to do. We're waiting for transportation to go home. And that was in Italy, you know. So it was strange. You know, here you are every day doing this and that and worrying about this and that. And never.
What part of Italy was that?
It was in Foggia. Well, it was north of Foggia. I mean, we were in Foggia, and then they had Arsina or something like that, another little town. So Foggia was nice duty. Oh, there was an incident there in Foggia that it was kind of strange. One morning, little Olson and I were walking down the runway, down to the runway, and this B-7, the 301st Bomb Group was 24, with B-17 outfit, and they'd fly right over us every day, and never think nothing of it. We never even looked up, and it was a boom right over our head, and the wingtips of the B-17 were off of it, and they were flying down, and there's four parachutes came down, and this airplane was headed right for us. And then it turned off, you know. It didn't hit us, it just turned off and went some other place and blew up. But there was only 4 guys got out of 10, you know, that's pretty bad. But anyway, Olson come back to the States and he was worried about that spot. And what happened, he went to Miami to a medical school and he stayed there.
So when all of that wrapped up and you made your way back across the Atlantic,
yes,
tell me what it was like coming home.
Nervous.
Nervous?
Oh, you could not believe it. I shook. I couldn't get over that. Just going like.
Why was that?
I don't know. The happiness, I think, to get home. I think that was a big thing.
And how long had you been gone?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
So
no, I had stopped there about 4.5 years.
Well, that's a long time.
Oh yeah.
So what was it like as a returning GI after the war? When you got home?
Well, we were trying to, you know, get into the system. It was hard to get into the system again, you know, and it was difficult. And you know, I tried to get a job. Everything was 90 cents an hour and stuff like that. And I said, and these, you know, the reason they made a lot of money, they worked a lot of overtime. The people were there, and I could have got a lot of jobs. I took one job at Electromotive, putting air conditionings on trains, you know, and it was like 3:42 in the morning that I got off, you know. After, well, geez, I took that job for a week, and it was good money. I made good money there, but I said, I quit. And the woman says, you can't quit. I said, I can't quit. I'm not going to be there tomorrow. You know, at that time you couldn't quit a job, you know.
Really?
I didn't realize that. I didn't know, but I said, I'm not coming back here. And then my brother was working at Texaco, and he said, come on, work for Texaco. I said, okay. But no, Texaco, you know what it is? It's 24 hours, 365 days. That's a killer.
Yeah.
So I worked there for a year and took my vacation. I had a week vacation, and I went back and I told him I'd quit. And that guy really tried to make me stay. And I told him my story that I felt like I was in a cage. You know what I mean? I mean, it was hard on me to get, when they lock, you know, you go in there and it's all surrounded with fence and you couldn't do anything. You had to work, that's
So it was a little different than the military.
Well, military, I had free life, you know?
So if you had an opportunity to talk to some of the young guys about the things that meant the most to you in your time in the Air Force, your time with the 27th Squadron, the 1st Fighter Wing, what would you share with them?
Well, first of all, I'd tell them, go in for 4 years, get a college education. I said, I had a brother. Now, he's my young brother. He's 10 years younger than me. And he was going to get drafted in the war, okay. And I told him, join it. He said, I have to join for 4 years. And I said, he said, if I get drafted, it'll only be in 2 years in Korea. And I says, go ahead, 4 years and you get your education. And I said, don't do like I did. I signed up for the University of Illinois to go to school. Nobody pushed me, and I was having a good time, and I didn't go, that's all. I don't regret that. My life was good, excellent, but I don't regret that. Because it was my decision, and, you know, I didn't blame nobody. I just did.
Just did what you did.
I did what I did, that's right.
So,
my brother did that. He became a school teacher, and it was a beautiful life. You know what I mean?
So you recommend doing your 4 years, getting your education?
At least that.
Right.
And if you like it, stay, you know. I recommend it.
So if you had to give them some advice on the country and what they can do and how they can be a strong American, what's your advice to them?
Well, this day and age, it's kind of tough. I have 10 grandchildren, and none of them were in the service. And I talked to him about, the oldest one is 27, and he quit school. No, he had a high school education and didn't go to college. He had a chance to go to college. So I recommended getting the Air Force, enjoy it, and get his time in. My wife preached to him and everything, because he don't have the money to pay for it, and he didn't want to take a loan out. And when he was 25, he decided to go back to school, and it made me happy. But he, you know, I said you can get this nice, clean place you can get into is the Navy. You know, it's worth the. There's something about it. I hate listen to this. I hate the Army. I hate it. But I recommend this for the experience of it. The experience you can't get in any other place.
No, you sure can't.
It's so different, and you get educated.
That's
really
true.
Get educated. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and
sir.
somebody, it's not your mother or father telling you what to do. It's somebody that's got authority to tell you what to do.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
and you know, I tell them exactly what it is, but I said, but it's worth it to get into it.
So if you had kind of some final words to share with any of your brothers at the brothers and sisters at the 1st Fighter Wing, or anything else you'd like to share?
Well, being in the association for 30 years, and my experience with it, I can't quit it. It's like this time, my wife is unable to come, and I felt bad. I decided I wasn't going to come. And then my daughter happened to hear this, and she said, "Why don't you have my husband come with you?" He hadn't had a vacation for 5 years. I said, "Well, ask him." And he's here now. So, and he loves it too. You know, he doesn't know, he hasn't been in the service, and he has a duck cleaning business, and he's there six days a week, and he's works all the time, and he can't get away from it. And this is going to be good for him.
That's great.
So,
well, we're thrilled to have you as a member of the association and one of our World War II brothers, and really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your experiences. It's means a lot to us, and it's going to mean a lot to a lot of people that get to hear your story.
well, I hope so. I mean, it's an experience that somebody has to, you know, I've been lucky, you know. I'm here. I've been lucky. I'm 92 years old, and there's risk in every kind of work and jobs, or, you know, in life there's always risk. But take some risk too, you know. It's worth it.
That's right. Good advice.
And the experience is wonderful, because you're with people about your same age, and you're competing against them, and this is life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can, this is what I always compare it. I know I could do, I'm not the very best, I'm not bad, but I know I'm about in the middle. And I'm confident in myself. I've always been confident in myself.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the service I was confident. I mean, when I put my mind to it, I can do it. I don't care what it is, I can do it.
That's good advice.
I built 2 houses, and I did it, you know. I didn't have the experience in that, but the service showed me how to do all this stuff.
And taught leadership too, didn't it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. The leadership is funny, you know. It comes to you, and you say, "I'm the boss of these 4 guys," and you know, and I always encouraged them, you know. And I thought. And I told 2 of my promoted, I told them, this guy's going to be good, you know. He needs experience, that's all he needs. Mm-hmm. And they promoted him, he became a good crew chief, you know. So that made me happy, you know.
That's good.
Oh, another thing I wanted to say, I never had any recognition being in the service. I didn't need it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I didn't need it, I know I didn't get it. And when I went on the honor flight, you hear about the honor flight?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The honor flight, Charlie Wilson is a buddy of mine. He lived in Ohio, and that's where it started. He had an application. He says, I don't have to go to Washington, D.C. because I go there all the time. My son works there. And he says, you want an application to go on? I said, well, whatever it is, I'll try it. He didn't know anything about it either. And then about 2.5 years later, I get a call from Chicago, and I said, well, I put this application in Columbus, Ohio. He said, well, they gave it to us. And I said, what's this all about? And they told me, and I said, sure, I'll go, you know. And that was the very, very best thing that happened to me. And they said, seeing the monuments, that has nothing to do with it. That's just a piece of marble, that's all. But that commerce, you know, the people that, they treat you so well and fussed over you. No, my wife's the only one that does that.
Wow.
And it's a real honor. It was real honor.
Well, that's awesome.
And there's only one other time that I felt that way. It was BJ Day. I was home, you know, I was home. I got all dressed up and went into town, and we had a good time.
That's great.
But that was
and
different.
BJ Day was Victory in Japan.
Right. And that was a different type of day, so.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. I'd recommend it. I mean, I don't like it. I didn't like the, I had to get out of the service. I was going to put in 20 years. I really was. That was my intention,
But yeah, time to go.
Yeah, so
Well, Felix, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing your time with us. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.